Hello everyone, and welcome back to Firebrand Fables. If you're a fan of fantasy, science fiction, and horror, then stick around, because new episodes release once every week. This episode of Eventhrone is part 3 of the story Prologue, so if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, you might want to check it out from the beginning first. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Sword Coast Soundscape for letting me use his Ambience. You can find him on YouTube, Patreon, and Bandcamp, as well as Alex Kenoyer for doing the music. And you can find him on Instagram at AlexKenoyer_. That's AlexKenoyer_. Thanks again for listening. Now let's dive into part 3 of Eventhrone Prologue. Previously on Eventhrone Prologue. The ship chartered by the team of guild expeditionaries passed through the wall of fog surrounding their destination. Once they entered the clearing within, they spotted a massive spire of coral rising out of the ocean. The ship's anchor was dropped, and the guild members gathered on the main deck, performing their final preparations as Torin and Minister Leah Baravan tell them what to expect. The first of the group to enter the water was Torin, and he spearheaded their descent into the murky depths of the ocean. In the middle of the group, Novice Glenfellow swims a few feet back from Minister Baravan. His eyes turn in every direction, only picking up speed as the water grows darker and darker in his field of view. A distant blur of motion catches in his peripheral vision. He snaps his attention to the coral spire, but there's nothing there. He shakes his head and shuts his eyes firmly before fixing them on the people around him. Meanwhile, Minister Baravan moves through the water with such grace that she finds herself having to consciously slow down to avoid swimming past the others and out of formation. Her webbed fingers and toes provide such a level of ease and agility that compared to the others, it looks more like she's swimming through air. She glances back, the distant light of the sun shimmering behind them, and notices Glenfellow's twitchy head and eye movements. As she watches him, his breathing slows and his muscles relax little by little. Minister Baravan looks away, thinking to herself, "He'll be all right." With a quiet mind, Torin keeps his eyes fixed on the shadows that conceal the seafloor, patiently waiting for something to pierce through them at any moment. Every few seconds, he glances at the spire on his right or briefly scans their surroundings, then instantly refocuses on the path ahead. Besides the churning sound of the currents in his ear, the ocean is dead silent. With the contrast of the sun mostly disappeared, a strange shape emerges from the darkness, then another, then several more, then dozens more as the murkiness at the end of their vision peels away. A once great temple of sea elves stares up at them at last. In awe, Glenfellow stops swimming for a second, then fearfully scrambles to keep up after realizing the others weren't stopping. "Oh gods, this is worse. Why does it have to be worse?" he thinks as he stares past the others to where the huge monument lies. Now, hundreds of feet below the surface, they see the base of the coral spire. Though long since dead, it grew off the temple's roof, acting as a living part of the structure at one point. The temple itself appears to have been constructed using bricks of volcanic basalt and pumice, and most of the exterior displays incredibly detailed patterns. Stone idols depicting a variety of gods are on display within alcoves and atop pedestals, all of which are worn and cracking. The foundation of the temple is a plain of rock with a large, shallow recess that the courtyard is built into. Aside from the scattered clearings of barren sand, the area surrounding the temple is mostly occupied by fields of dead reef and rotting forests of kelp. With the distance, the darkness, and the overgrowth, the ruins look more like a maw of jagged teeth in Glenfellow's mind. Or, at the very least, he sees it as a mangled stone jungle that could hide any number of predators in or around it. His heart pounds harder and harder. The members of the expedition approach the ruins, the full extent of its wreckage now laid bare before them. A thick, smoky pool of brine fills the courtyard, with fallen pillars, statues, and a plethora of corpses littered across it. Some of the bodies lie half submerged in the brine, while others are completely blanketed by it. The parts of the corpses that aren't submerged in the brine have turned to wax, with the very little flesh that's left loosely clinging to the bones, and the bones themselves staying fairly intact. The members of the expedition begin to split as they come within 100 feet of the ruins. Torin, Minister Baravan, and 2 other adventurers fork in the direction of the temple entrance, while Glenfellow and Eliel's team of 4 continue down to the courtyard. The last 4 members of the expedition search the surrounding reef and kelp. As the group shifts to separate into their teams of 4, Glenfellow's view of the courtyard opens up, allowing him to spot the one thing he couldn't see before. His eyes go wide with fear. The spiked shell of a turtle as big as a naval vessel slumps down into the far side of the courtyard. Its fleshless, angular skull rests, with only the very bottom edge of its jaw dipping into the brine. However, most of its beak still remains above the surface. Glenfellow screams, his voice muffled by the water. Alarmed, everyone darts their eyes back at him as he stares at it in horror. It takes a moment, but he quickly realizes that the creature has been stripped to its skeleton and its shell split wide open. Breathing deeply, he raises his hand, reassuringly nods his head, and looks at each of his peers in a silent apology. After rubbing his chest, with his eyes shut for a few seconds, he and his team swim the rest of the way down until coming to a stop roughly 15 feet over the pool of brine. Everything within the courtyard that lies beneath the foggy threshold has been stripped of color and layered with salt. Glenfellow hovers over it, his eyes scanning every grim detail. The faces of the dead elves and merfolk, pickled by the brine, sear into his memory. I should never have agreed to... No, this is important. From one of the pouches on his vest, he pulls out a notebook with several shimmering markings pressed into the cover. With squinting eyes, he sifts through the book until he finds an empty page, pulls out a pencil, and writes, "Courtyard exhibits complete ecosystem death. Even biological decomposition is non-existent." Taking a moment, he raises his head and shifts his body upright in the water. He scans from over his left shoulder, straight ahead to the skull of the turtle, then over his right shoulder. A chill goes down his spine at the sight of the void around him, causing a full body shudder. To the best of his ability, he focuses his mind on confirming a suspicion and closes his eyes. Drifting in total silence, he allows a few minutes to go by while occasionally giving his surroundings a quick glance. When he finally returns to the notebook, he writes, "No discernible ocean currents present. Environmental decomposition reduced, if not totally eliminated, as well." And that's it for Part 3, The Descent. Part 4, Into the Ruins, will release next week, or you can go to my Patreon and read the whole story for yourself right now if you'd rather skip the wait. If you have any feedback for me or my stories, then please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or how you think I can improve. Thanks for checking in, everyone. Peace.